Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is Zelensky and Trump bro up. A lot of people want to know what happened, and even more importantly, what does it mean for Ukrainians?
Yeah, it's a pretty messy situation
Mm,
and you really got to feel for the people over there. This is their lives we're talking about.
absolutely. So we've got these reports from CNN and AP.
Mhm.
They just came out. We're going to dive into them today, see if we can make some sense of this whole thing.
Sounds good.
So Zelensky goes to the White House.
Right.
He's thinking this is a chance to shore up support, show the world that America's got his back.
And maybe even make some progress on that critical minerals deal, is
Yeah.
something that could really help boost their economy, which, let's be honest, needs all the help it can get right now.
For sure. I mean, the country's been at war for 3 years. They're struggling. But instead of a show of unity, it basically turns into this public humiliation for Zelensky.
Yeah, Trump and VP Vance, they just lay into him, accusing him of being ungrateful for all the aid America's been sending.
And the minerals deal? Poof. Gone. Just like that.
It's really hard to imagine how demoralizing that must have been for Zelensky.
You're telling me, can you imagine going into a meeting expecting support and then getting berated on the world stage?
Exactly. And CNN, they point out this really stark contrast. Here's Zelensky. He's been leading a country at war for years. He's seen things, experienced things most of us can't even fathom.
And then you have Trump and Vance. They're coming from a completely different
Well,
reality.
yeah.
It's like they just don't get it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where things start to go off the rails. Zelensky, he expresses some doubts about Russia's commitment to peace, which, given their history, isn't exactly surprising.
Right. It's not like Russia has exactly been known for its trustworthiness.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Trump and Vance, they take this personally,
Like Zelensky's questioning their judgment or something. CNN even reported that Trump specifically felt Zelensky wasn't, showing enough gratitude for U.S. support.
which is just wow. I mean, the guy's country is being invaded,
Mm.
and you're worried about whether he said thank you enough.
It's mind-boggling. And of course, that's when the meeting turns into a full-blown shouting match. Trump and Vance are lecturing Zelensky about respect.
All while Zelensky is trying to explain, the realities on the ground, the very real danger they're facing, the deep mistrust they have for Russia. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking two completely different languages.
Totally. And then, to make matters worse, Trump starts implying that Zelensky is gambling with World War III by even bringing up these disagreements in front of the media.
Talk about escalating the situation, and then you have Vance just chimes in with a just say thank you.
I mean, seriously, that's the best he could come up with.
Apparently, and that's what really gets me about this whole thing. Can you really demand gratitude for aid while ignoring the realities of war? Is that how we treat our allies?
It's a good question, and one we're going to have to grapple with as we go deeper into these reports.
It really makes you think about the human cost of all of this. Behind the headlines and the political jargon, there are real people whose lives are being turned upside down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the politics. But we can't lose sight of the fact that there are people in Ukraine right now who are living in fear, whose lives are literally at stake.
Right. And this whole blow up, it's just made their situation even more precarious.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, first you got the minerals deal. That's gone. And that was a potential lifeline for their economy.
And then you've got Zelensky. He's been publicly humiliated, which weakens his standing on the world stage.
And that just plays right into Russia's hands. It emboldens them,
Okay.
makes them think they can get away with even more.
It's terrifying, honestly. CNN even suggests that this whole mess could force Zelensky to step down.
Oh, wow. And what would that even mean for Ukraine? I mean, would they even be able to hold it together?
Well, that's the fear, isn't it? It could throw the whole country into chaos at a time when they need stability more than ever.
And on top of that, AP reports that a lot of Ukrainians are worried about a rushed peace deal, one that favors Russia, leaving them vulnerable in the long run.
It's like they're trapped between a rock and a hard place. Damned if they do, damned if they don't.
It's just a heartbreaking situation all around.
Mm.
And it all comes back to this whole issue of gratitude, or rather the perceived lack of it.
Yeah, it's like Trump and Vance, they just can't get past it.
Like they expect Zelensky to be bowing and scraping,
Yeah.
thanking them for every little bit of aid.
While his people are fighting and dying for their freedom, it's astounding to me.
CNN quotes one Ukrainian civilian as saying, "Dignity is also a value. If Russia cannot destroy it, why does the U.S. think it can?"
Wow. That's powerful. And it really speaks to the sense of betrayal that many Ukrainians must be feeling right now.
They're looking to America for support for leadership. And what they're getting is demands for gratitude and accusations of disrespect.
And AP reports that Zelensky actually addressed this. He said, they just want to hear that America is on our side, that America will stay with us, not with Russia, with us. That's it.
Such a simple plea. But it speaks volumes. He just wants reassurance, a commitment that America won't abandon them.
But instead, he gets his public dressing down. It's hard to fathom.
Yeah. At the end of the day, this isn't just about politics. It's about people. It's
Yeah.
about the lives of millions of Ukrainians who are caught in the middle of this power struggle.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's easy to forget when we're talking about international relations and geopolitics. But it's the truth. There are real people on the ground who are suffering because of these decisions.
So what happens now? What does the future hold for Ukraine? I mean, it's hard to say,
Mm.
but it's definitely not looking good.
It's a really tough spot for Ukraine. On the one hand, they need help, they need support, but at the same time, they don't want to be seen as weak or begging for handouts.
Right. It's about finding that balance, isn't it? Between accepting help and maintaining their dignity.
Exactly. And I think that's something Trump and Vance completely failed to grasp.
So where do we go from here? What happens next? I mean, it's the question a lot of people are asking.
Well, the good news is that Zelensky isn't completely alone. European leaders have come out and expressed their solidarity with him.
That's something right.
It is. It shows that the world hasn't completely forgotten about Ukraine. But whether that translates into concrete action, actual support on the ground, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. It's easy to talk the talk, but
Mhm.
walking the walk, that's a different story.
Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of Ukrainians are worried about right now. Are these expressions of support just empty words? Or will they actually materialize into something tangible?
It's like we said before, it's a wait-and-see situation. But the clock is ticking.
Mhm.
And every day that goes by without meaningful action, it just adds to the anxiety and the fear.
Yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the reality. We're seeing real politic in action. National interests, power dynamics, they often take precedence over human concerns.
It's a harsh truth, but it's one we have to confront. And at the end of the day, this whole situation, it's a reminder that we can't take peace and stability for granted.
Yeah. The world is a complex and often volatile place. And it's important to remember that these geopolitical events, they have real-world consequences for real people.
Exactly. So we started this deep dive wanting to understand what went wrong in that meeting between Zelensky, Trump, and Vance, and what it means for the people of Ukraine.
And I think we've seen that it was more than just a diplomatic misstep. It was a betrayal of trust and a betrayal of an ally in desperate need.
And unfortunately, it's the Ukrainian people who are paying the price.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that politics isn't just a game. It has real human consequences.
So if there's one thing our listeners take away from this deep dive, it's this. Pay attention, stay informed, because what's happening in the world matters, and it matters to all of us.
I couldn't agree more. We can't afford to be complacent. We have to hold our leaders accountable, and we have to demand better for ourselves and for the world.
Well said. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back next week with another look behind the headlines.